Welcome again on this beautiful morning, the fourth Sunday in Advent. We're so grateful to have you here. Now, I imagine that Christmas is going to be a little different for many of us this year. We've been experiencing what has been referred to as the Great Pause, an intermission, a sort of forced time out for those of us that are honoring the recommendations for protecting ourselves and others from COVID. And in prior years, many people would get caught up with decorations and trees and lights and gifts and preparing that they forgot what the meaning of Christmas was. Or sometimes they're so busy preparing that by the time Christmas comes around, they're too exhausted to enjoy it. This great pause, this great intermission that we're experiencing right now is causing us to slow down and really look at the true meaning of Christmas. So today we lit the candle for joy. What is the joy of Christmas? An angel announced that the source of that joy was the birth of Jesus, as it says in Luke 2. The angel appeared to the shepherds and said, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy, which shall be for all the people. For today in the city of David there was born a Savior, who is Christ the Lord." I bring you news of great joy. There has been born for you a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. That great joy was the birth of Jesus the Christ. For with the birth of Jesus came the birth of Christ consciousness, which is the way back home, a way to remember, a way to reawaken the knowledge of oneness which resides within each of us. It was a way to move from darkness to the light. You see, the true joy of Christmas is not confined to one season of the year. It's the abiding joy of knowing for certain that the Christ exists within each of us, that we too can realize our Christ nature, can realize oneness. It's the contentment that comes from knowing that within each of us, we possess a truth that holds constant during all the uncertainties of life. The joy that comes from the Christ within and the inner knowing that there is only the one of which we are part of. So let's go back to Luke. Why did the angel describe the news about the Savior as a great joy? Now imagine how frightened the shepherds' experience must have been. They were sitting in the darkness of night, perhaps maybe, with the light of a flickering fire, when suddenly the sky lit up and an angel appeared. Now, what this means for us, what it represents for us, the shepherd sitting in the darkness symbolizes that part of us that is pure ego, invested only in the physical world, thinking that the physical world is all that exists. It's the part of us that's still in the dark. And then the skies opened up and the light appeared and the shepherds were terrified. It was something they had never seen before. An angel appeared to them and told them that Jesus, the Savior, had been born. Now, what the angel was telling them was that the light had come into the world and they were no longer stuck in the darkness. They now had an option. They had a choice. The same is true for us. We sit in the darkness of the world of form and think that this is all there is. It's a world where fear exists. We're fearful that we won't get what we want, that others would get what we want and we'll be left out, that we'll not be taken care of, that we will be harmed, and that there's not enough to go around. That's the darkness. But just like those shepherds, the light has come, and we do have a choice. We can choose to accept the Christ, or we can stay stuck in the ego. And just like those shepherds, seeing a light for the first time can be terrifying. Terrifying because it shakes the very foundation of the ego thought system. This light tells us that we're not alone in a hostile universe, that the light exists in each of us, that each of us is the Christ, and each of us knows truth. And that is the joy of Christmas, the joy of seeing the light, of being illumined, of knowing the truth of who we are, of knowing there is a way to freedom, of knowing that joy is our birthright. How could it not be? If we're made in the image of God, how could we not be joy and peace and love and the other attributes of God? Joy is our natural state. And as I mentioned last week, one of my favorite authors is Alan Cohen, and one of his books that I love is Joy is My Compass. He says that if we're not in a state of joy, then we're not in alignment with our true selves. And wouldn't it be wonderful if there was such a compass that was available to us, an instrument that would point us in the right direction to find joy? If there was such an instrument, it would point us away from doubt, worry, fear, and stress. It would be pointing straight at us because joy comes from within. There is nothing outside of us that can bring us sustained joy. Joy is an attitude, and joy is now. Joy is life. Joy is truth. Everything else is fiction. When we seek happiness from outside sources, we're putting our faith in impermanence. The loss of the awareness of oneness creates a void, an emptiness that we try to fill with outside things. And that's where the potential for addiction comes in. You know, we try to stop it with drugs, alcohol, food, shopping, cleaning, by being possessive, by holding on, by wanting things to be our way. We get a temporary high and thinks that it's joy, but all it does is lead us to misery. Joy comes from moving beyond our senses to a deeper experience of the stillness within. It's an inner knowing. That's why it's so important to spend time in silence, to connect to our heart, our true source. And when we do that, joy is the natural result. And it comes from discovering the truth of who we are. In the book of Ecclesiastes 6, it says, God keeps them occupied with joy in their heart. Isn't that beautiful? Joy occupies our heart. It's there. We just need to uncover it. If we're not experiencing joy, then it's something of the ego that's covering it up. Something is covering it up. Because joy is here and now and always. Now, I do distinguish between happiness and joy. Happiness is an outside feeling. It relies on something external to bring about that feeling of happiness. It could be another person, a pet, nature, music, a show. It's disempowering because it removes the power within us and places it on the external. Most of us want more joy and happiness, and in our humanness, we're often deluded into looking for it from something outside. But joy is so much more deeper, much fuller than happiness. Happiness can fade, but joy does not. Joy comes from a deeper, more profound place of connection with the divine in all its expressions. Brother David Steindl-Rast, the Benedictine monk who has made a life study of gratitude, says, joy comes from our inner awareness of divine love's presence and connection to God and each other. The awareness of divine love's presence and our connection. Joy is always with us, and we can experience it at any time if we allow it. but we must be willing to let it flow. We need to be willing. Now, even though the dictionary defines joy as the emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune, by the prospect of possessing what one desires, or to experience great pleasure or delight, I still maintain that joy is an inside job. It does not come from outside of us. The spiritual quality of joy is simply a part of our nature as expressions of spirit, as children of God. It's in us now and always. It's not dependent on the circumstances of our lives. According to unity principle, we can experience and express the joy of God even in the most difficult of times of our lives. Joy is unending, and regardless of the circumstances, we can find joy. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin says, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Coming home to God is our deepest joy. When we open our hearts, minds, and eyes to see God everywhere and in all of creation, we are in the midst of joy. In the book of Joy, Lasting Happiness in a Changing World by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the Dalai Lama explains how to cultivate joy. He says, joy is a reward, really, of seeking to give joy to others. When you show compassion, when you show caring, when you show love to others, do things for others in a wonderful way, you have a deep joy that you can get in no other way. You can't buy it with money. You can be the richest person on earth, but if you care only about yourself, I can bet my bottom dollar you will not be happy and joyful. But when you are caring, compassionate, more concerned about the welfare of others than about your own, wonderfully, wonderfully, you suddenly feel a warm glow in your heart because you have, in fact, wiped the tears from the eyes of another. And that is exactly what that animated short that I showed in the beginning expressed. Their joy came from giving to one another. Joy can be a connection with other people, with nature, with animals. It is the wonder, the delight, the well of love, loving energy us, so that we feel our connection to God in all its forms that brings forth the light of our soul as joy. It can be the joy of the first snowfall, the first signs of spring, the birth of a child, the stars in the sky. It is seeing the miracle of life and celebrating it. The key word here is connection. It's the connection we experience when we connect to all things, when we see God in all things. I love this expression, the Dom Joseph Marimon, who was an Irish Benedictine monk, said it beautifully. He said, joy is the echo of God's life in us. The echo of God's life in us. That's so beautiful. Joy has been implanted in us from the beginning. No one can give it to us. No one can take it from us. It is entirely in our own hands. If we are willing to turn inward to that power which lies at our essence, we cannot help but find joy. It bolsters the soul and strengthens the body. Joy is the most precious gift we have. As children of God, we are meant to live in a state of joy always. As I mentioned earlier, the angels appeared to the shepherds and said, I bring you news of great joy. There has been born for you a Savior who is Christ the Lord. The Savior is reborn in us again as the Christ. Yes, Christmas time is a wonderful, joyful time of year, and we feel that joy when we celebrate with family and friends, even if we do it on Zoom or on the phone and can't be fully present. But joy is not dependent on who or if you're celebrating, where you're celebrating, or what gifts you receive. Joy is the love that we share with each other, but it doesn't come from outside of us, it's within us. Joy came into the world in Bethlehem over 2,000 years ago, born to help us remember who we really are, born so that we may know that joy lives on within us always. And now I'd like to invite you to sit comfortably as you're in your seats as we move into meditation. Just take a deep breath and let it out. And with each breath you take, with every exhalation, you feel yourself relaxing more and more. You move your body so that you can release any tension that may be, and you just breathe it out. Feel all your muscle relax. And as you relax, you release all your cares. You release all your cares and concerns to that ever-guiding spirit, knowing that spirit upholds us and sustains us in all that we do. We keep our heart and mind centered in truth and feel the presence of God within us now. Feel the peace of God infusing your entire being and keeping you serene. You feel the presence of God within you now, and you feel the contentment and peace that comes with that. We know that when things look dim, all we have to do is offer our faith and trust to God, knowing that Spirit will direct us and guide us in all that we do. When things are at their most serious, we know that we can move within and feel the joy that is our birthright. And right now within me, I allow these feelings of joy to bubble up, sweeping every cell of my body. This joy heals my body, my mind, and I move deeper and deeper into the silence. And as I move deeper and deeper into the silence, I allow you, Spirit, to direct me in any way that you wish. So I move into the silence and I just listen. And as I feel this joy, this great joy within me that is my birthright, I share this joy with all that I meet today. I share this joy with the world. And I am so grateful for this experience of joy and the ability to share this joy that is with me forever, that I carry within me. And now I bring to mind anyone who may be in need of prayer. For all those on our unity prayer list and those on silent unity, I affirm that there's a power and presence within them that will see them through any difficulty they may be facing. And we extend this prayer to all of humankind that they may know the peace and love and joy that they are. And when you're ready, you can bring your consciousness back into the room where you are, back into your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, welcome back, everyone. And it's this portion of our service where we have the opportunity to give. So I invite you to visualize your gifts in your hand. And I shared in our chat our PayPal link, should you choose to extend your love offering through that link, or you can go to our website and click on the donate button, or you can mail in your love offering. However you do it, we are so grateful for the ability to give and the ability to receive. We know the wonderful work that this community does, and we are so grateful for all of our members and all of those watching us online. So I invite you to bless these gifts with me. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I am open to receive, and I am grateful.